On the threes.
All right, everyone, deep dive now into Hurricane Delta, currently a Category 2 storm making landfall out over towards the Yucatan. Came out with an intermediate advisory about an hour or so ago. Winds now at about 110 miles an hour, but this is still going to get out into the southern Gulf of Mexico, and it is still going to intensify. The conditions here are very favorable for that low shear, warm water, all of that sitting in the southern Gulf right now. Still expecting it to pick up to about a Category 4 as it sits offshore here by early Friday morning. This is going to be a big-time surge maker because as it gets to Category 4 strength as well, it's also going to be expanding. The wind field is going to be increasing. The storm is going to become larger. Larger storms typically equal sloppier storms, which means a little more water that's going to be pushing on shore. We're going to start to get watches and warnings popping up here probably by the end of the day today. And once those start to come up, we can really start to nail down the specific numbers of that surge. But I would expect 4 to 8 feet, and I'd be prepared for about 10 to 15 feet as it stands right now. Major hurricane as it does make landfall right in south central Louisiana. All of Acadiana is going to likely be feeling hurricane type impacts from this storm. Does move very quickly though, and this is going to be a daytime storm. It doesn't change the impacts being during the day or being overnight, but it helps handle it mentally a little bit, I think, when you're talking about a storm that's going on in the daytime instead of being, plunged into darkness overnight when you start to lose power and you can hear everything going on outside and not being able to see it. At least be able to see things as they happen, which again, it doesn't change the impacts, but it kind of helps us mentally deal with a storm like this. So let's roll through the day today. Again, intensifying pretty deeply as it gets just offshore. That's why don't be complacent because it's sitting as a Category 2 storm now. This is going to be a 4 as it sits offshore. And will start to turn its way towards the east. A westward drift has been happening, but there is a limit to that because there's going to be shear and a trough that sits down over towards the west. So eventually this thing is going to have to turn towards the east just a little bit. And models have been very consistent here and kind of kept it in south central Louisiana. Anywhere from about Sabine Pass all the way through towards the eastern shore of Vermilion is kind of where every model is coming in now. And it's going to get even more confident once it comes off of the Yucatan. So Friday midday, you've got landfall out there. This is when we're really going to be in the heart of it. The worst of everything moving through midday goes through the evening and will continue a little bit overnight. But by then you're starting to see things lift out over towards the north a little bit more. And by Saturday daybreak, things should be looking a little bit better. We'll start to actually get some dry air, clear skies in by the time we get to Saturday afternoon. So what does that look like when it comes to the winds? We mentioned the storm surge a little bit. Winds are going to be the other major factor with this storm. Fairly breezy out there through the day today. Those winds pick up tomorrow, probably sitting up at about 10 miles an hour, gusting closer to about 15 to 20. Offshore, you're going to see those gusts peaking at about 30 to 35 through the day Thursday. Quickly deteriorating offshore as we get into Friday. This is Friday right around daybreak, an hour or so before sunrise. Gusts are already going to be sitting up at about 30 miles an hour offshore. They're already going to be picking up at about 50 miles an hour. Tropical storm force winds expected along the coastline by early Friday. This then pushes itself onshore through the day. Notice some of these numbers. You're going to see numbers closer to about 100, 120 wind gusts down along the coastline. As you get a little further north, along the I-10 corridor, be prepared for wind gusts at probably 60, 70, and then weakening as it gets a little bit further towards the north. But this is going to be one of those where the winds are really going to be bad down along the coastline, and then hoping that it kind of weakens as it gets further towards the north. Unfortunately, though, it's not going to be weakening fast enough to kind of save us from some major hurricane impacts. Winds like that, you're probably going to be talking some pretty widespread power outages as we get into the weekend. Rain totals, I would say that we need to be ready for 6 to 8 inches worth of rain, hot spots of about 10 to 12. This thing moves fast, which helps alleviate some of the flooding concern, but doesn't get rid of it entirely. You'll see the low-lying areas picking up and pooling some water. There's probably going to be a lot of water sitting in yards and stuff like that as we get through the Friday and on into Saturday. Preparation needs to be wrapped up today. Timeline of events coming up here in just a few minutes. It's 6:48 right now at 69 degrees.